Alright, so hello and welcome back to another 90 Day Fiancé video on Arthur TV. Today we're back for part 2 of 41-year-old Danielle and her 26-year-old Tunisian fiancé Mohamed. So last time out we started our journey with this infamous couple. The pair had met online and just 4 months into speaking, Mohamed proposed to Danielle over Messenger. She said yes, and 7 months later Mohamed landed in the US on a K1 visa, giving him 90 days to either get married or be sent back to Tunisia. After an emotional arrival, Mohamed then had his first big challenge, meeting the family. Despite Danielle's son Corey and brother-in-law Paul both voicing concerns about Mohamed's intentions, both seem pretty willing to give him a chance to prove that his love for Danielle is genuine. And at the end of the video, Mohamed took a step towards proving that by rejecting a woman who made a move on him at a bar, whilst Danielle was out shopping for a wedding dress. With Mohamed now settled into life in the US, preparations for the wedding are very much underway. After visiting a potential site for the wedding to take place, Danielle went with her sister and her cousin to speak about the wedding's budget. But after realizing that she's going to struggle to pay for everything, Danielle started voicing concerns about how her financial situation might affect the relationship.
I love him, and I know he loves me. It's just, I am worried at times that with all the money issues and finances and stuff that he's gonna wanna leave instead of trying to work together to figure it out. I haven't been totally honest with Mohamed about financial troubles. I'm worried about how he would react if he finds out the truth.
So we found out in part 1 that Danielle doesn't really make a lot of money as a carer, but what we didn't know up until now was that she's really behind on quite a lot of her bills. Given Mohamed can't get a job on his K1 visa, he's relying on Danielle as the sole financial provider until he becomes a full US citizen. So Danielle is worried that if he finds out about her money problems, he might leave her. What makes matters worse is that on top of the wedding and reception, Danielle is also going to have to pay for Mohamed's visa fee, which is $1,000. As a result, Danielle's sister and cousin just can't see how it's going to work.
I want you to be happy. I really, really do. Everyone deserves it. But I really have doubts, Danielle, if this is it. I mean, just the age difference. And I mean, even the culture differences. Right now, everything's pointing to, oh my God, this is a disaster waiting to blow up.
You know, I feel like deep down, Danielle knows that she's right about this. A lot of the people in her situation and other couples we've looked at have been in complete denial at this stage, just fully believing that their partner loves them and would never leave them. But Danielle is fully acknowledging all of their points here. I think the problem is that even though she knows they probably are right and that there is a big risk that it's all going to come crashing down, she's so desperate for love and desperate to be in a relationship that she's willing to take that risk on Mohamed regardless. Aside from that, starting the relationship off by hiding things was never going to turn out well, and sooner or later, Mohamed was going to find out. With 40 days to go to the wedding, Mohamed's phone got shut off, and he inevitably found out that it was because Danielle hadn't been paying their overdue bills.
You need to explain me everything so I can understand. Why you didn't tell me that you have problems before I come here? Why?
Because I was scared that you wouldn't want me.
It's not about scared.
That you wouldn't want me if you knew the truth.
What you did, it's mean you're lying. It's not about scared or not scared.
He's got a harsh tone, but he's got a point, hasn't he? Her avoiding reality and not telling him the truth because she's scared of the consequences is such an immature thing to do. And it also really shows how insecure about the whole relationship she is. She should have just been honest and transparent about everything from the start. If he didn't want her because of her financial problems, then she could have just moved on and found someone who wanted her regardless of them.
You make me lose everything there. I lost my job, I lost my family, my friends, everything.
Are we going to be able to figure all this out before your visa? I'm worried sometimes that we're not going to be able to figure it out.
It's a tough situation, but her whimpering on Mohamed's arm like that is actually tragic. She's like a teenage girl in a grandma's body. This is so frustrating to watch because once again, a couple has hit a massive stumbling block just because they rushed into everything. Like, it wasn't even a year into their relationship. Why did they need to commit to getting married so quickly? If they had just made the plans, figured out how much it was going to cost, and then not started the 90-day process until they had that money set aside, literally all of this would have been avoided. I don't know whether it was stupidity or desperation that made Danielle financially commit to supporting him knowing that she had money problems, but I'm guessing it was a mixture of the two.
If you don't want me to leave, you have to change a lot of things. If you will keep doing like this, sure I will leave. How you will pay all your bills? How you will pay your car? We need to trust each other. And if you keep doing like this, you will lose my trust.
He has got a point, but he's a lot more angry than supportive, isn't he? Like, I get that he's risked a lot for this, but so is she, and they're in this together now. Even though it is her problem, he's speaking like she has to figure it out all by herself, rather than trying to figure out how they're going to get through this as a couple. If he really loved her, you'd expect him to be a little bit more comforting than this. Also, you have got to wonder whether he'd be quite so angry at her for having money problems if he wasn't entirely relying on her to pay the $1,000 fee for his visa. Although, that being said, he did take his risk based on her not being honest about her financial situation, which is a pretty big deal. So his anger definitely isn't entirely unwarranted.
But I'm afraid
Why?
if we don't figure this out that you're gonna leave.
I'm not going to leave because of the problems. I will never leave because of the problems or because we don't have money. I will leave only if you keep doing things by yourself and you don't share it with people.
Still slightly threatening, but it's a bit more reassuring at least. I mean, her struggling financially isn't really something that's that easy for her to change, but being honest about it is. Knowing that the financial problems alone won't make him leave her should calm a lot of her anxiety about it all, and definitely should make her feel like she doesn't have to hide any of it anymore. Although whether she actually will start being honest about it all, who knows?
I will give her time. She have from today till the last day in my visa. So she's the only one she can decide if I will be here or I go back. We start from the beginning. We forget all about problems and we start from the beginning.
It's nice of them to make up, but it doesn't really solve the problem, does it? Like, it's easy for them to say, let's put our financial problems behind us and start fresh, but I'm not really sure he can say the same to the bank manager or anyone else she owes money to. Also, as nice as it is that he says that he'd never leave her money problems alone, he kind of has to say that, doesn't he? He can't exactly say he'd leave her if her financial problems continued, and then get up at the wedding and say for richer or poorer, can he? Thankfully, over the next few days, they started to figure out how they could manage everything with their limited budget. They came to the conclusion that essentially they couldn't afford to have a proper wedding and still pay for everything else that they needed to. So instead, they're just going to go to the courthouse to get it done officially for the minimum cost possible. Then, once they're married and Mohamed gets his visa and can finally work, they'll save up enough money to have a proper wedding ceremony and reception with all their family and friends.
We want to go to the courthouse to get married and then to apply for the working visa for me. Danielle, she's trying hard. The budget is tight, but changing the wedding plan is gonna help. I feel like things starting to be better.
Love you.
I love you. It's okay.
Now, the ceremony wasn't the only thing they ended up agreeing to cut costs on. Danielle had actually found a wedding dress that she really liked, but with money being tight, she had to give it up. And when they ended up going to look at wedding rings, they had to settle for a lot less than they were hoping for. They asked for a cheap diamond ring and were showed one that was $1,200. When they asked for a cheaper one, they were shown one that was $700. Mohamed then asked if that was the cheapest ring they had, and when he was asked what their budget was, he said between $100 and $200. The jeweler replied that the best he could do was 2 plain silver rings. It was definitely shaping up to be far from the wedding that both had probably imagined, but because of their ruthless budgeting, it at least finally seemed like they might actually be able to manage it. However, with just 26 days to go to the wedding, Danielle received some devastating news.
I need to tell you something,
Something about what?
but I'm scared to tell you, and I'm afraid you're really gonna be upset.
Tell me.
Can I just let you read this? I lost my job.
Oh, that is heavy. That's not even like, oh, we won't have much money and things are going to be tight. That's like everything. They don't even have any savings to dip into or anyone to bail them out. Like they have no way of paying for their rent or their food or their water anymore, let alone a wedding or a visa. So I can't figure out why she's smiling like that. I'm starting to genuinely think that she's not all right in the head.
They let me go.
Why? What's the reason? Explain me more. You did something wrong?
No, I didn't do nothing wrong.
So how they fired someone did nothing wrong?
They feel that I'm not good enough at the job.
But you wasn't serious about jobs. That's why you lost it.
I can find another one.
I don't believe that.
What the hell? That is absolutely savage from Mohamed. Where did that come from? Also, I wonder what he means when he says that she wasn't serious about her job. I mean, we haven't really seen anything to do with her commitment to work, but surely that's come from somewhere. Like, was she setting off for work every day an hour late? Was she skiving days off? There's often no smoke without fire, so maybe his initial reaction was right. And to be fair, given her attitude to literally everything else, it wouldn't hugely be surprising. That still doesn't mean it wasn't harsh though.
We lost everything. She hid things on me just because she's worried that I will leave, and I feel seem like it's impossible to change it. I think that I'm wasting my time. I'm sorry, but it's so hard for me. I don't want to be in this situation.
I know.
To be fair, I don't think she wants to be in this situation either. I completely get that she's lied to him and put him in a really difficult position, but the fact that he's not being very sympathetic or supportive about the fact that she's lost her job, which affects her and her daughters just as much as him, just shows that he doesn't really care about her. I mean, I'm not particularly surprised by that because let's be honest, who hasn't been thinking that this entire time? But the benefit of the doubt that we gave them in part 1 about them at least potentially being a genuine couple has just gone out the window with this. Like he did say literally only 2 weeks ago that he would never leave because of money problems, only if she wasn't honest about them, and he's kind of going against that here. Like she has just been honest about the fact that she's lost her job, and he's kind of talking like he wants to leave. Not that I really blame him for it, because now that she's lied about her money, she hasn't really got much else to offer, has she? It just confirms our suspicions that this relationship is transactional rather than genuine.
I didn't expect that life will be like this here, so hard. I can't stay if there is no food, there is no electricity, no water. How someone can live in this situation? I have to think about this, really. I need to think about if we're going to get married or not.
It's actually crazy how much the US is romanticized around the world, isn't it? So many of these foreign partners come across and just expect to be guaranteed a good quality of life just because it's America, and end up so shocked at the reality of it all. Like, as great a country as it is, the majority of the population still have to work really, really hard to make ends meet. The Fed even did a survey and asked people how they would afford to pay for a $400 emergency, and literally half the people said that they wouldn't even be able to afford it. The idea that you can just come to the US and expect someone to fork out $1,000 for your visa, and goodness knows however much else for the marriage, is just so naive. Also, on top of that, the type of people who are preyed on for this route to a green card are often the most desperate and vulnerable in society, the majority of whom just don't have that kind of money. Danielle is literally a perfect example of that. I don't really think that Mohamed's a bad person for any of this, by the way. Like, if Danielle tells him that she can financially support him until he gets a visa, and he comes across relying on that, he has every right to be disappointed when it turns out that was a lie. I do think he would have been more compassionate if he genuinely loved her, but none of his feelings are unjustified here. At the end of the day, Danielle should just never have made a financial promise that she knew she couldn't keep, but I guess she just had nothing else to offer. I genuinely don't know how they're going to manage this, or even if Mohamed's going to stick around to find out. So I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what happens in the next video. because that is unfortunately all we have time for today. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button, and if you want to make sure you don't miss what happens next, make sure you're subscribed down below. As always, the links to my Instagram, Twitter, and other social media will be in the description, so feel free to come drop me a follow to keep up with the channel, help me decide what future videos to make, or just say hi in between uploads. I'd also just like to give a really quick shout out to my Patreon supporters who support me and the channel over on Patreon. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.